What's up, guys? I'm Tyler Wojciak, the host of Locked On Irish, and I don't know about you, but I'm actually pretty excited to enjoy a stress-free bye week after a very stressful win last week. But this bye week, coming off a win over USC, is much, much better than the first bye week this season after that heartbreaking loss to Texas A&M.
Well, I'm Allison Hayes, and I agree with you, Tyler. This feels really good to have this bye week, but I'm also curious to see where Jeremiah Love may be making his way into the Heisman conversation.
I'm Alan Pinkett, two-time All-American. Could this be the final year we see Marcus Freeman coaching the Irish?
Hi, this is Reggie Brooks, 1993 All-American, and will that have been the last USC Notre Dame football game? I truly hope it isn't, because that was a classic.
Play like a champion today. It's the Fighting Irish Squad Show. Everything Notre Dame Fighting Irish every week. Breaking down the biggest news and game-changing plays the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Wake up the echoes. The Fighting Irish Squad Show starts now.
Hello and welcome to our bye week edition of the Irish Squad Show. I'm Allison Hayes and I'm your host today. And we have a great show in store. While we have the bye week, we've got a lot to talk about with this Irish team. Today's show, we're going to talk about the timing of Notre Dame's bye week and what are some of the key areas that the Irish need to be working on during this break. And then, of course, the college football job openings. Is there anything out there that could tempt Marcus Freeman to leave South Bend? Notre Dame is ranked number 12 in the AP poll. Is that too high? Is it too low? Do you guys agree with that? And key games to watch this week. They might have the weekend off, but it is a full slate of some really good games. How are those games going to impact Notre Dame while they sit back and watch from their couch? And how about the Heisman Trophy race? Is there any Irish players going to be in that conversation? Could Jeremiah Love be creeping in? We're going to break that all down, so let's go ahead and get started. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. All right, gentlemen, let's get going on today's bye week show. First thing, we want to talk to you guys as well. Alan, Pink, I hear that's the name to call you, Pink. Pink, tell me, as a former player, and Reggie, as a former player, just how important is the bye week? Now they get 2 now in the season. How important are the bye weeks for players? And do you guys like the timing of Notre Dame's bye week? I hated that they had that one so early in the season, but this feels like a really good time right now. They're in a great position where they're at to have a rest, to kind of sit back and watch some of these other dominoes fall.
Well, the bye week to me is so important because at this point in the season, everybody's nicked up and bruised, and it's amazing what 1 week can do for you in terms of health. I remember in 1984, I had entered the season with just a slight little ankle injury, and I kept re-aggravating it each week. I just needed 1 week where I didn't re-injure the ankle, and it did affect my performance. But then we finally got it. We got it in a loss. We lost to South Carolina, but I didn't re-injure my ankle. The next 4 games, I went 160 plus against LSU, 160 plus against Navy, 187 against Penn State, and 99 against USC. So I know how important it is just to have that week where you're not getting hit on and banged up. The second one, it can get monotonous because you have a routine and you go through the same. Monday is the same, Tuesday is the same. It's just good to break up that routine, and it's good to just be able to sit back on Saturday and relax and just, the reason people take vacations is to recharge their batteries. The bye week is good because it does allow you to recharge.
Well, I gotta admit, I don't remember having a bye week. We just played. And I actually preferred that because, again, even when I was injured or banged up, and it's a mindset. It's a mentality of just, you want to continue that, get to that next game. I do agree with Alan that this was a needed, it's a needed deal to kind of recharge and recover. But I've never been necessarily a big fan of bye weeks because, again, it's just, you just play the game. I enjoyed playing it. And I also agree with you, Allison, that first bye week made no sense. I'm like, what are you doing? There's no need to have a bye week right there. But again, scheduling is all dictated by the powers that be, which is the TV, the media. So I'm not a big fan of that first bye week. I do like where this one failed because, again, not only do you get the opportunity to kind of recover and get some guys back from injury, but it's also an opportunity, again, to kind of let your mind rest. People don't really look at football as a mental sport, but it very much is because, again, it requires you to be locked in, focused on the little things that you need to do every day in practice, but also every day in the game. So just to having and this coming off of their midterms as well, that's also an opportunity to kind of take a break mentally as well as physically. And I think it does hopefully it does a wonder for them to just be able to kind of relax, but also to kind of get the treatment that they need, and stretch and just doing the little things that you don't have to. It's not a pressing deal. It's something that you do to help your body to recover and your mind to just kind of refresh. And but I think one of the things that also is a great opportunity to do self-scout.
Not only that, self-scout, install. It's a great time to install additional plays. Our special teams unit, I think, does a great job of trickeration. And this is the week where they can add a few more things. The other thing I'll say is, after a loss, the bye week is too long. But after a victory, that bye week is too short.
I don't have anything to say. I don't have a bye week.
Well, you talked about it, though, being, it's such a mental game and you have to be locked in and all of that. Having that break, is it hard then to refocus and get back into that swing of things? Can it break momentum? I mean, Notre Dame is going to come off their bye and play Boston College, so I don't imagine that that's too much of an issue, but it could be. Is that where, you fall into where the trap game type of thing where you think, oh, it's just Boston College, we're going to kill them, and then all of a sudden your mind's not right?
It's possible, but I think that's where the coaches come in and the importance of them kind of refocusing the guys and kind of to Alan's point, talking about kind of some different installs. And again, you get leave the monotony and try to involve them in some extra fun stuff to do from a practice standpoint, with the understanding that we're going to do these things. You guys can have a little downtime, a little enjoyment. But we have got to start rolling back in. So come Sunday, we need to get back on track for that next week and get back into our normal routine.
Yeah, it is very possible that they get off to a slow start. The bye week does have that effect sometimes, that you get so used to game speed, and then you have that week of practice where you don't have a game, so you haven't seen game speed, and you get in that next game and it's like, damn, I didn't know that guy was that fast that just ran by me. But usually what happens, you get hit in the face one time, then it wakes you up. It's like getting that cold water splashed in your face type of feeling. That's usually what happens, and then you're right back in the groove.
Well, Tyler, with that said, I mean, you've been covering the Irish now. What do you feel like are some of the key areas that they do need to work on during this bye week so that they can pick it up and get back going on the same track they were on? One thing that we've all talked about is that slow start. So is there a concern that slow start could continue as they get ready to take on Boston College?
Well, it's interesting because when I first saw the schedule this year, I was annoyed that the bye week came after the game against USC because traditionally the bye week happens before, and it's an advantage for Notre Dame because then they have an extra week to prepare, but it didn't work out this year. So it's actually pretty fortunate now, obviously, that Notre Dame won the game because I don't think they're going to spend the next 2 weeks preparing for Boston College. I don't think that's really all that necessary. So they do have more time to focus on self-scouting, making improvements to their own team, because I think if it were the other way around, and if the bye week were before USC, everything would have gone into beating them, which is beneficial. Obviously, you feel more prepared for your opponent, but I think it takes away what you can improve internally. So obviously, the short yardage stuff has got to get figured out. And I'm sure Mike Denbrock and the entire offensive coaching staff have been thinking about that, not just after the game against USC, but after NC State as well, because for as good as this offense has been, they have just left so many points to the board. You think about how stressful that second half was. If CJ Carr doesn't throw quite literally the dumbest interception I've ever seen, and look, that's no offense to CJ Carr. It was. But fortunately for him, the second dumbest call of the game, thanks to Lincoln Riley's reverse pass there in the driving rain and wind. But they got to focus on that. They got to get Noah Burnett healthy because the kicking operation is a disaster right now. And defensively, I mean, they've been so good at stopping the run. Hopefully this week off gives Christian Gray a mental break, but they really don't have a long to-do list of things to figure out. Obviously, they can improve in a bunch of different areas, but I mean, just the way that this team is playing, if they could figure out short yardage and stop leaving points on the board, this team's going to be just fine down the stretch.
Well, one thing they did learn is not to direct snap the ball to Jeremiah Love. They put that offensive set on the shelf where it needed to be. Reggie, they still not under center, but at least they got rid of that direct snap to the back because they hadn't figured out how to block it yet.
That was going to be what I was going to say. It's like, hey, get under center. And, you have the quarterback sneak, but you also have a running back coming from depth, getting the ball. And again, Jeremiah, Jadarian Price, I think both those guys coming from 7 yards deep with a head of steam can, get a couple yards. I mean, that shit, that's one. It's like, come on, let's just call it what it is. Defensively, I will say, again, and I agree with Tyler, defense is have done a lot of good things. Couple of things that just come to mind is, rerouting receivers. I don't know how many times I've saw guys that just, they don't get hands on the receiver. I mean, if you're going to be up in a bump set, you got to get your hands on the receiver. And that just blows my mind. They just back up and start running. It's like, at least put hands on him to reroute him. And that's also good for the linebackers too, to work on that, as their guys are coming on those crossing routes to be able to reroute the receiver and just get them off of, at least the timing of it, knock that off. And then defensively, tackling. You continue to get better in the game of tackling. You don't have to, actually tackle. I mean, take this time to not hit. This week will be good not to hit, but just emphasize, hey, how can we get better tackling? And one of the things that I'm started seeing guys just running into people, actually hit and wrap up. That's a pretty easy thing you can do and teach, and you don't have to actually physically make people tackle someone, but just the motion of hitting and wrapping up a runner, it is the most important thing for defense. I don't care how many big plays you get, it still comes back to the basics of running and tackling. And if you're not able to tackle, that's when you get you allow those big plays.
And usually in a bye week, that's where coaches will really stress fundamentals. They'll do less X's and O's, but they'll really stress, what are the things we need to do to, make sure that we are closer to perfect. You're never going to be perfect. Yeah, but, tackling form, the steps a running back takes to approach the line of scrimmage, route running, rerouting receivers. Those are the things that they'll emphasize in a bye week.
I would think too, you talked about that mental rest. That would maybe that's going to play a factor in them improving on the penalties that they've been having the last couple of games too. That's been a situation and I have to imagine that's maybe a lack of focus at times, or just things are just, too much is going on. So maybe that mental rest can help them with that as well. And one thing I would like to see just is a continued improvement on pass protection on that offensive line. Protect the quarterback, keep CJ hands off of him, allow him to have that time so he's not rushing and not having to be forcing things in and making some mistakes. Now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at Notre Dame's win over USC, but also this first half of this season, and just what are your thoughts? What are your takeaways, not only from SC, but also from the entire first half as they now are going to move forward, and some key injuries. Of course, that is what the bye week is really all about, is just getting healthy, getting these guys some rest. Who are some key injuries that the Irish are dealing with, and how do they improve there if those guys are not able to come back? We'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep businesses moving even when you're off the clock. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
All right, well, we are back, and let's talk a little bit about our final takeaways from USC, from the first half. One thing for me, and not to toot our own horn, but we like to talk about key players that we're looking for to have big games in these games each week, and we talk about them. One guy for me that I mentioned that I really thought had an opportunity to have a big game was KVA, and Kingston, he did. He had a great game. He finished with a sack at the fumble recovery. But just for the overall first half of the season, we've been really watching Boubacar Traore, KVA, and I've been just really impressed in their improvement each game, each week. And some numbers for you with Boubacar. He's up to 6.5 sacks now on the season. He's got 27 total tackles. He's got the 4 QB hurries. He's got a forced fumble. Those are the numbers that we want to see. We want to see that continue to improve and just keep doing his thing. He was a guy that had some opportunities last year. Then he got hurt. Then you were waiting for him to come back. And then he was kind of taking his time to come around the season. And now it feels like he's here. And the defense now is starting to click on all cylinders. And I mean, there's certainly things that continue to need improvement, but those are 2 guys to me that have really stepped up in this first half of the season. And I feel like they're going to continue to make those strides as they move forward into this second half.
Well, my biggest takeaway from the SC game was the fact that the defense held the USC rushing attack to only 68 yards, and yes, they were down to their third-string tailback, but that third-string tailback put up 158 against Michigan. Michigan does pretty good against the run, but they were obliterated by USC. So the benefit there is, by stopping their rushing game, it made USC one-dimensional. And when they become one-dimensional, that's when that rush improves. That's when the defensive backs have a better opportunity to get an interception. That's when the defensive linemen have a better opportunity to get a sack. So to me, it was picture perfect in terms of they stopped the run and made them one-dimensional. Then they could get after them. And I could talk about the offense. There are so many. I think the takeaways on offense are obvious. And to me, both Jeremiah and Jadarian saved their best for the USC game. They both ran with patience, and then when they had to accelerate, they stepped on the gas. They were hard to tackle. I don't know, maybe when it rains, those jerseys are slippery or something. But they just ran with a reckless abandon and a determination that we thought we were going to see against Miami. But they found it now. So I think they are set up very well to do this stretch run, just based on the confidence they should have after beating a very, very good USC team.
And to interject there, you talk about Love and Price. They were awarded this week for the Pony Express Award for running back duo, the best in the country. And just some numbers for you. And they have been so impressive. They are the only program, Notre Dame is the only program with 2 running backs who have more than 500 rushing yards on the season. So Love right now, 758, Price 509. Just incredible. Together combined, they rushed for 306 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns against USC. And I mean, we can just go on and on about their numbers. And you don't mean to be a dead horse per se, but I mean, what these guys are doing, we need to appreciate it, because what we're witnessing doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't come around all the time like this, to have 2 backs that are this good independently, but also combined. They're incredible to watch. Love, he's got 124 carries for 758 yards, 9 touchdowns. He also adds 19 receptions for 197 yards and 3 touchdowns this season. Then Price, he has 76 carries for 509 yards and 8 TDs with 2 100-yard kickoff returns for touchdowns. That is crazy. I mean, to be able to watch Price just take off like that is got to be one of the most exciting things there is to watch in all of college football. And we are witnessing this happen in real time this season for the Irish. It's just been so fun to watch.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in real quick. You know what they both remind me of? They both remind me of Rocket, because you know how when Rocket, whenever he got the ball, you just got excited because you didn't know what was going to happen. I think they both have that quality that when the ball gets in their belly, it's like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? So I just wanted to throw that in.
I like it.
Well, I'm just glad that they're finally leaning into an identity on the offensive side of the ball. We've all known, again, you've had these 2 dynamic runners, but we haven't always shown the willingness. And I think, that goes back to Mike Denbrock to want to commit to this and force teams to stop you, as opposed to you just doing something different. Force teams to take the run game away, and as you can see, it's not easy. And that offensive line has continued to get better. And I've always said offensive linemen prefer to run block as opposed to pass block. When you're run blocking, and we saw it with Schlara, when you're punching somebody in the mouth, that is a wonderful thing for offensive linemen. They love it to death. So I just hope they continue to lean into this identity of a run-first football team.
I hope they're able to do that as well, because I think we can all be honest about the offensive line. Up until the USC game, they had not really lived up to our expectations. And in fairness to them, the expectations are really high. We were talking about this group as one of, if not the best offensive lines in the entire country. Then they got humbled, to say the least, against Miami. They were getting dominated in that game, and they got better each week, but they weren't dominating their opponent like we had expected them to. Against USC, they did that. They opened up massive running lanes for Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. And if that is going to be available to them going forward, which is a question mark right now because Joe Otting played great in his first start. We'll see if he's able to continue that. They're going to be without Billy Schrauth for at least 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even longer. So they're basically without their top 3 offensive linemen, Jagasaw, Schrauth, and Craig. But if this group is able to do what last year's group did, continue to improve and become a strength by the end of the season, then I think you'll start to see them lean into the running game more. And then once they do that, then CJ Carr hits them over the top, and this offense would really be unstoppable.
Just curious to get your thoughts, because I've had some people asking me about this. What are your thoughts about, do you try to get Aeneas Williams involved more, or are you liking it the way it is with Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love? I know there's only, so many carries to give around here. Do you want to see Aeneas Williams more, or are you good the way it is?
I have no issue with, like I said, him getting some playing time, but I think, it needs to come with them having dominated, so like with the Arkansas game, where they put up the points. And again, that, second team gets in there and gets some opportunities. And, hopefully that's what we see, against, in a couple of weeks against BC, because I think that's going to be a key factor there is, can we get these younger guys some playing time? Because, it's a good chance you're going to lose both Price and Love. So you need to have some guys that have game experience ready to go for next year.
It would be nice to get Aeneas in there, but right now it seems like, because the offense is they're not wasting a lot of drives, they're scoring on their drives, and they're time consuming, that they run out of time to put them in. And with a 10-point lead over USC, you didn't want to necessarily take your foot off the gas, but as I expect them to do in the upcoming games, if they can get some blowouts, which they're going to need because they're going to have to pass the eye test, that will be the opportunity for Aeneas to get in. And, it's good for him to get in, because you want him to have that confidence when he gets in the game that he can make a difference and make things happen. We saw him do it last year when he had a couple of opportunities. And as a running back, you want to create that niche that the coaches feel like they have to put you in, because there's something that you do that helps them win. And right now with Love and Price, there's no reason to look anywhere else, because those two are just a Batman and Robin, a dynamic duo that you don't need to see anything else, because those guys are making it happen.
Absolutely. And I want their stats, their numbers to just continue to grow. They deserve that. I know it doesn't really matter in the long run as long as Notre Dame's winning, but let those guys, give them their flowers, let them get their numbers up. And it just, it all goes to helping the Irish get the win. But I do believe in Aeneas Williams. And I think if he is number one next season, I think they are going to be in really good shape moving forward. Some key injuries, Tyler, you touched on it, the offensive line. Those are the two biggest ones probably right now in terms of that, with Billy Schrauth. He's now going to miss 3 to 4 weeks with the knee injury. He sprained his MCL, and that was against USC. Sullivan Absher will be taking his place. Absher and Gerby Lambert, they were rotating at left guard early on in the beginning of the season. Lambert ended up beating him out, so now Sullivan is going to get his chance. And you kind of feel like he's going to be just, maybe not to say a placeholder, but he is going to be there. And I think if Billy Schrauth comes back, he would get his starting role back as well. And then we were already missing starting center Ashton Craig. He's been out with that knee injury since NC State. Joe Otting, he's moved into that starting role, and he played fairly well, I would say, against USC. Can he continue to play well? And as they continue throughout the season, I think, fortunately, when you look at Notre Dame's schedule, those are very favorable matchups for the Irish in terms of their offensive line. But maybe even, you're playing against a Boston College, if they get up huge, you start rotating some of your other offensive linemen, because they have been dealing with issues, injury issues this year, last year. We saw that as well. So you want to get those guys experience, but I don't know how much you want to mess around with that rotation. Another key injury, though, defensive tackle Gabe Rubio. That one hurts, and it looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the season. But what I was impressed with was the way that they sort of replaced him by committee. It wasn't just one guy against USC. We saw Jared Dawson, Donovan Heinisch, Elijah Hughes, Jason Onye. They all combined for 8 pressures, and that was the second most of the entire season. And so it was nice, it wasn't just like one huge star or one, huge play or stats, but it was by committee, and these guys all came together. They all had their chance to get in there and contribute. And I think that's the way that they're going to have to do it to replace a guy like Gabe.
Oh,
You muted.
rookie mistake.
Yeah, first time on StreamYard. The Gabriel Rubio injury to me is pretty massive, and I mean credit to Elijah Hughes and Jason Onye for stepping into his role there. They played amazing against USC. I mean that's Jason Onye's best game of his life, so really happy for him, especially after all that he's went through. But that is one that's going to linger. I'm a little bit hopeful that Rubio is able to make it back if they do end up making the college football playoff, because I mean last year when Riley Mills went down in that Indiana game, they were able to make up for it in the loss to Georgia and Penn State. But man, against Ohio State was he missed. And it was very clear. So when you're playing those upper echelon teams that Notre Dame is hoping to face again at some point, you really need a strong, big body interior defensive tackle. So that's one that I'm monitoring. And I already brought it up. Noah Burnett. Notre Dame has to be able to kick field goals, man. This is crazy. And it's the second year that we're doing this. How many teams have their kicker get hurt at any point in the season? And then how often does it happen in back-to-back seasons? And that is the reality that Notre Dame is dealing with right now. So I'm hopeful that this bye week is enough for him to finally get right, because they might not need him against Boston College, but who knows, against a team like Pitt. They're feisty. They've got a good defense and a quarterback that they believe in now. So to be honest, I think Notre Dame has one more close game left, just because college football is a weird sport. Right now it looks like it's going to be Pitt, but even though they're able to get by without these guys for now, you definitely want them back at the end of this run.
Reggie Allen, anything to chime in there?
No, again, it's just the injuries are piling up, and again, I agree with Tyler about the Rubio, and that's a tough one, because again, when you get thin, offensive line, defensive line, it seems to be a recurring theme with our guys. And I was looking at a picture of Schlareth. How do you say his name? Because I hate him.
Billy Strauss.
Strauss. Why don't they have him on knee pads? I mean,
they don't have to wear the brace. None of them wear.
He's got a brace on, yeah,
but no knee pads.
Oh well,
and it's and I've seen that with multiple offensive linemen. I'm like, of all the things not to have as a lineman, you can get rolled up. I mean, catch a helmet. At least have the appropriate padding on your legs. That is just critical, and to not have that's a little disconcerting. Yeah. And I'm not a fan of the offensive lineman kind of. That seems kind of pretty boyish to me. That's a defensive thing where they gotta have to have the certain fit. Offensive linemen are down and dirty, so come on, wear all the pads that you can, because you need them. Come on, yeah. I do not want to see another offensive lineman with no thigh pads and knee pads. It's like, what the heck do you have pads for if you're not going to use them?
Well, they taking their direction from the NFL. Those guys don't wear pads either. But I've been impressed by the quality of the depth and that Notre Dame has, and you do need that depth. But more impressed with, like Reggie, I think you had mentioned, the mindset. Marcus Freeman preaches next guy up. Doesn't want any excuses. If you're a backup, you may not take all the physical reps, but you damn sure better be taking mental reps, because you're going to get a turn. And I think as long as they keep that mindset of next man up, they did it last year, made it all the way to the title game with a pieced up line, and they're going to have to do it again. So that's why you need the depth, but you also need to have, again, that mindset that it's just my turn now, no drop off. We'll just continue to execute the way we need to execute.
We'll see, too, if Devontae Smith can heal up over this bye week, that soft tissue injury of the right calf. Maybe he can get healthy enough to actually get back in and get some significant playing time again for the Irish. All right, let's take another break. When we come back, we can start talking about some of these job openings that are happening in college football right now. Is Marcus Freeman happy in South Bend? Is there any temptation that could draw him out of South Bend, maybe into SEC country, maybe out east? We'll see. And also, we're going to talk about the rankings. Oh, yes. The CFP rankings still a couple of weeks out. So where they are right now, guys are jockeying for position. Are you happy where Notre Dame is, number 12 in the country? We'll talk about it when we come back.
Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
All right. Well, of course, the big news this week has been some of these firings that have happened in college football. We talked about James Franklin last week getting axed at Penn State, and then also Billy Napier at the University of Florida. That's my alma mater. And I actually had an interesting conversation with a radio host there, Steve Russell. He's been a longtime radio guy at WRUF AM 850. I used to work there back in my college days, and he was a mentor of mine. And I joined him on his show today, Sports Theme. And we talked about, he said, everybody's talking about Marcus Freeman. Is there any chance Marcus Freeman could consider coming to the University of Florida? Do I think that? No, I do not think it. Is it possible? Anything is possible. And it all comes down to money, but not necessarily for Freeman, but that is the name of the game at this point. And just doing a little bit of research on it, Freeman is making about $7.4 million a year at Notre Dame. That's not including his incentives and bonuses and all of that stuff. And there's a chance that things could be renegotiated if they continue on this path. But he's pretty comfortable where he's at right now. I noticed a tweet today, on X, posted by Tom Mendoza, of all people, from the business college. But he said 38 wins. So Marcus Freeman's 38 wins as head coach, 32 of them have been by double digits, including 13 of his last 15 and all 5 this season. And so it is no wonder why people are so interested and intrigued by Marcus Freeman. Not only is he winning, but he's just cool. He's just got that cool factor to him, right? He's recruiting lights out. He's proving that you can come to an academic school like Notre Dame in this day and age, in the NIL era, in the transfer portal era, and you can win, but you can also get the spotlight put on you. You can also get an incredible education. Your mom's going to be happy. Your NFL player dad is going to be happy. He's bringing in the right guys to Notre Dame to make the Irish relevant. And there's been a long time frame, even being in the top 10 or 10 wins a season. That was kind of the norm for Brian Kelly. But we're seeing the difference of Brian Kelly at Notre Dame and then making that jump to the SEC. And it's a whole different ball game down there. And so for me, I don't see what the incentive would be for Notre Dame or for Marcus Freeman to leave Notre Dame unless it's all about money, because he's proving that you can win here in South Bend in bad weather with a hard academic calendar and expectations. So why go down there and mess around with the SEC schedule and be just, one of a lot of really good teams down there? They're right now consistently playing against ACC teams, and there's just a difference. The ACC, let's face it, does not stack up to the SEC. So for me, I don't see that as a possibility. And we can talk about some of the candidates and other job openings, but just to get your thoughts on it. And of course, again, this is all speculation. This is all just our opinion or what we're hearing, him say, but anything could happen in nowadays.
Real quick, I want to say that Freeman's contract is I think it's closer to $10 million. It might even be over. But the thing is, Notre Dame is a private school, so the actual contract details are not made available to the public, and they have no reason to. But when Marcus Freeman signed his long-term extension right before the playoffs last season, I know that it put him within the top 10 highest-paid coaches in college football. And right now, of all the public records, Lane Kiffin is making $9 million a year, and he's 10th. So you got to imagine Marcus Freeman is above that. But still, Florida does have a war chest down there. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Steve, the guy was saying about the radio station, and I asked him, how much money do you think that Florida is apparently willing to spend? And he said what he's hearing is between 12 and $13 million per year to be the next head coach at the University of Florida.
Well, look, I'll tell you this. I would never speak badly about someone to have the opportunity to go make more money. But is money really the thing that fulfills you as a coach? I mean, James Franklin is still owed $56 million. Is he happy? Hell no, he's not happy. So money isn't everything. And I appreciate Marcus so much because he doesn't give you that coach speak. And I heard I guess I heard one report where he talked about the gratitude of being here. I think he's really ingratiated himself to the university and what the university stands for. I think he really embodies the mission statement of the university. And I mean, you gotta love it to be here, especially in the winter. There are some. Yeah, I'd rather be in Florida in the winter too. But when I got recruited, I did my first official visit to Notre Dame, it was -20 in a blizzard, and I fell in love with the place. So there's something about this place that sticks out in a way that it's unique to any other school that is around. And the other thing I like about Marcus Freeman, which I think would make him stay here, is where Brian Kelly, and this is my opinion, so I don't know how many facts I have, Brian Kelly always talked about, or didn't talk about, but it just seemed like he used the academics as an excuse when he got his butt kicked. All right, where Marcus Freeman embraces it. And look, there's smart guys all over the place. Smart guys want to go somewhere where they can win. So even though I did play in the NFL with some guys that never went to class, but they went to a place where they could win. But there were some guys that were extremely smart that played at some of these so-called football factories because they wanted to win. All right. In fact, Marcus Freeman, on average, will get 5 or 6 guys that Kelly couldn't get. And I think it's because he believes in the mission of Notre Dame. It's such a unique and special occasion. And because of that, he's even embraced the independence of Notre Dame, not having to be in a conference. Why it's so much better not to be in a conference, because in the end, being a conference champion doesn't mean a damn thing. Did Ohio State win their conference last year? No, but they were national champions. So I think because he has really bought into the culture of Notre Dame, you're not going to find this culture anyplace else. And I may be drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit, but I know having to travel around to other places, you just don't find what you have here at Notre Dame. And I think that's more fulfilling than any amount of money you could get.
Well, everyone has a price. I mean, no, I'm sorry. Say everyone has a price.
Yeah.
I will say about Coach Freeman. He's always presented himself as an individual that focuses on the program. He doesn't make it about himself. He doesn't make it about an individual. He makes it about the full program and all those people that are involved, the coaches, the administrators, the support staff. I've seen him in how he interacts with people on his staff, and also seen him interact with his family. Those are the things that this is just a product of his upbringing. He understands the importance of what a community and a program, building a program, and what makes it special. And again, he, like you mentioned it, Alan, he really epitomizes those values that we always talk about at Notre Dame. And and he's also been very ingratiating to a lot of the former players, to engage them, to bring them back, and hey, he's really established a program there that incorporates not just the team and the coaches, but the community. He's always involved out there in the community, active in what he does and being a part of, the community that is South Bend, because it is a unique place. And these are the things that, hey, everybody has their price. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, they can come in here and say, hey, here's 15 mil. And, be honest with you, I said, hey, Mark, Coach Freeman, if you don't take that 15 mil, you're out your mind. But I do appreciate how he values people, the importance of the people around him, the importance of giving them the accolades, because, yeah, you can go to another place and get more money, but are you receiving the same joy of coaching young men and getting them to something? I know he's been to visit Coach Holtz a few times, and and he was very impressed by the bond that we still have as former players, but also the bond that we have and the connection we have with Coach Holtz. And it's because, again, people that will reach out and do pretty much anything for you in any part of the country. You have such a broad network, and he's been impressed by that. And he wants to see, he's about legacy, and money is not legacy. It's how you establish a winning program and establish, a program that fits a certain, mindset, a certain passion that you have to do something that goes beyond you. And I like where his mind is, but at the same time, I'm very conscious again that, money talks, and, there may be a price that, hey, says, hey, this is just too much, for me and my family to pass up. And I wouldn't begrudge him any one bit, but he always talks about, being great, being ingratiated and being welcomed into the Notre Dame family. I would be interested to see if we were talking. I mean, not that we are, because again, they're doing great, but there was a time when Ohio State was, he was on the chopping block, and again, that's a different dynamic, altogether. So I don't think he's looking to go somewhere, because again, it's not always greener on the other side. And to your point, Alan, winning matters. It matters to him, and he's winning. And I think, and you come into a situation where a lot of people look at it and say, man, that job ain't what it used to be. But he's actually developed and turned it into a marquee job again in terms of how people are viewed and how they view the program.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things at play here. Number one, I have no problem with Florida fans wanting to pursue Marcus Freeman. He's one of the best coaches in all of college football, and he might seem attainable to Florida fans who have just dealt with years of sadness and the fact that they have reached the top not too long ago with Urban Meyer. So this is what Notre Dame fans are going to have to deal with so long as they have Marcus Freeman as the head coach, because he's so highly coveted. Like, if I were dating a supermodel, I can't be surprised when she has other potential suitors. That's just kind of how it works. Number two, Marcus Freeman has already shown us what he would do in a situation where he could go to an SEC team who actually offered him more money than go to Notre Dame. And he made that decision in the offseason after 2020 when he was leaving Cincinnati. He could have gone to LSU, who had just won a national championship a year and a half before with arguably the greatest team ever assembled. And they offered him more money than Notre Dame could offer him. And yet he picked Notre Dame. And I don't think Florida and LSU are all that different. They're both very they have great histories. They both play great football. There is a recruiting hotbed. So the fact that he already picked Notre Dame in that similar situation, now things changed, and I get that. Number three, of all the times to leave Notre Dame, this would actually be the worst because they are in such a great spot. Pete Bavacqua has given him every single resource imaginable. He just got his long-term contract. I think he's paid as well as pretty much every coach in the country. I mean, there's Kirby Smart, there's Ryan Day, there's a couple guys above him, but not that much. From an NIL standpoint, Notre Dame is paying as much as anyone. Maybe not the tippy top, but they're right there. They definitely can spend. They have a new football facility. And last but certainly not least, arguably the most important one, is CJ Carr has one more year of eligibility. And I'm sure if you talk to Marcus Freeman and Pete Bavacqua and that entire staff behind closed doors, yeah, we all had real high expectations about this season. But it seems like everything is building to 2026 when you've got CJ Carr with the full year under his belt, potentially the entire offensive line coming back. Yeah, they're going to lose Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. They've recruited that position extremely well. A defense that's going to have Leonard Moore, Adon Schuler, Drake Bowen, KVA all coming back. After 2026, he might leave for the NFL or whatever. But if he left before that season, that would shock me.
He would be leaving a lot on the table and unfinished business. And when it comes down to it, Alan, you said it, they want to win. He wants to win a national championship, and he's putting himself in a position to do that. When you look at Brian Kelly, who said he couldn't win a national championship in South Bend, and he was going to the SEC where he felt like he had a better chance. Look at the two programs, look at the two coaches, who is closer and who is in a better position to possibly even win a national championship this season. It's not Brian Kelly, it is Marcus Freeman. All right, let's take a look at this top 12, if you will, of the AP. The first CFP rankings don't come out until Tuesday, November 4th. So right now, it is all about trying to get the highest position you can get as a team. Notre Dame has the bye week. They come in right now at number 12. They are the highest ranked 2-loss team in the country. Do you guys like where they're at? I was watching last week and we saw some other teams lose. We saw the number 2, the number 5, the number 7 teams all got beat last week. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, I think Notre Dame could break into the top 10. And I was a little disappointed to see them at number 12. But as I kind of look at who is above them right now, and I'll rattle them off quickly. Ohio State number 1, IU number 2, Texas A&M 3, Alabama 4, Georgia 5, Oregon 6, Georgia Tech, interesting, number 7, Ole Miss 8, Miami 9, Vanderbilt 10, and BYU at 7-0 is ranked 11th, and they are above Notre Dame, who is number 12. What are your thoughts there? Because when I see that, it is, I kind of get it. Maybe you could argue Vanderbilt, maybe you could argue BYU, but undefeated, I don't know. I think Notre Dame is in a good position at number 12. And I think in theory, although I agree with you, Tyler, there could be one that's close. There could be one that could throw Notre Dame off of their game, and that might be Pitt. But in theory, Notre Dame should win out. And I feel like they are a lock to make the playoff at this point.
Well, I don't think they're underrated. I think they're at a good number at 12. And the reason you can't really put them up higher than 12, there's too many one-loss teams that it's just hard to put a 2-loss team in front of a one-loss team. But I look at the 11 in front of them, and I have no doubt that Notre Dame could beat every single one of those teams. So and I wouldn't be surprised if in the first CFP rankings, you don't see Notre Dame. But there's going to be a lot more carnage to come. A lot more teams lose. And what Notre Dame has to do is not only win, but win convincingly, which means cover. I'm not comfortable talking about gambling, especially today. But
slow down with that one.
You're right. They need to win convincingly because they have to pass the eye test. And the way you pass the eye test is you blow teams away. But I see, as you get much later in the year and they continue to win like we expect them to, then you'll see them come into the CFP and be ranked. But don't be surprised if you don't see them right away. But like I said, I think everyone who takes an opportunity to watch them play realizes that, this is a good-looking team that is worthy of being in the playoffs and will have a shot at beating anybody that they put up against them.
Well, I'm very comfortable where they are right now. Again, and especially having that quality win now. We needed that game against USC. And, if you ask me, I think we dominated USC pretty well, considering, again, what, all the hype around that. So, we have 2 quality losses, and I'm really thinking Miami, really Carson Beck. He threw that game. That was ridiculous. I'm still a little pissed off. We need that help. And like looking at Texas A&M, number 3, they're in a good space. They got a big game coming up this Saturday that will go a long way in saying where A&M is going to be. But we need those quality losses to continue to win to help us. I think that's going to be the big thing, and having the quality. And we also need USC to, now we can go back to rooting for them because we got the quality to win. Now we need them to win. So, and just looking at the top 10, Ohio State, it's looking, Big Ten championship. I don't see anybody beating them going forward. In IU, Cignetti he's made a believer out of me. This IU team is for real. I can see them, looking at the schedule. There's a good chance they could win out and wind up facing, Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. As I was saying, A&M got a big one coming up. After they play LSU, I think A&M is in. If they can win that game, they should be able to be kind of. I was a little concerned, but the Arkansas game last week, I was a little disconcerting because it's like, Arkansas is not that good, but offensively, I think they stepped it up. But A&M. I think they have a chance. I was a little concerned about them. Alabama, strong win. They can win out again. Georgia, I really think that last game of the season is going to be a test for them. People are looking at Georgia Tech and like they're number 7. Why? Georgia Tech is a fundamentally sound football team, and they're coached by an offensive lineman. He understands the importance of controlling the line of scrimmage. Not saying that Georgia Tech is going to beat Georgia, but I really think that they're going to give them a much better game because they gave them a pretty decent game last year. So, and they're a better team this year. So, looking forward, Oregon, they got a good chance of winning out. Georgia Tech, I can see them in the ACC championship. Ole Miss. Big game coming up this weekend on Saturday against Oklahoma, who's 13. That's right behind us. And, I think, if Oklahoma wins, I think, they would jump us. And then Ole Miss I think Ole Miss would fall below us because, again, but it also goes back to how well we play those teams. Miami is still pissed off about this loss. That just made no sense. Get your head out of your behinds, in particular Carson Beck. I want to check his bank account because 4 picks. Come on, man. Come on. You got to be better than that.
That's Miami doing Miami things. You knew they were going to at some point realize who they were again. And forgive me for interrupting, but I think the breakthrough win, and I'm going to be short with this, the breakthrough win for Notre Dame was when they beat up Arkansas, because Arkansas has, if it was a small school, they beat the hell out of them. But Arkansas played everybody else tough, most recently Texas A&M. But Notre Dame went to their house, and got their coach fired. So that was the game that let folks know, oh, this is a different team. So carry on.
And BYU, they're undefeated. You can't really, but
Reggie, what would we do to BYU? They'd be saying BYU.
Well, if BYU is winning, they're gonna stay ahead of us, and that's the team that concerns me the most. Is where things fall. But again, there's a lot of football left. We have to be very precise in how we win. And again, and I know Coach Freeman's not a big on the run up the score and but we need a few more of those Arkansas type wins. Just over the last few weeks, just to get us back, to where a solid position. And I disagree. I think we will be in the top 12 come this first CFP rankings. I firmly believe that. I'm not saying that we're a lock for for the CFP, but I think in the first rankings as things stand, I really feel we will be in that top 12 coming out. A lot of it's going to kind of see how these first, because the games that I'm looking at this weekend is Ole Miss and OU, Vandy and Missouri, and A&M and LSU, and I think those will go a long way in kind of where we're positioned.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see USF there. So just saying. Go ahead, Tyler.
I don't know what's worse. The fact that Michigan is somehow ranked ahead of USC, despite the fact that USC just pulverized them 2 weeks ago, won 31-13, or the fact that I now have to defend USC. Like, I don't know what's more painful for me to deal with now, because when I saw that, I was like, you got to be kidding me, because now technically that's not a ranked win. I think USC is going to get back in the win column here soon. They're going to get back in the top 25. But look, there is so much carnage that's going to happen here. Like, it's October 23rd. Ohio State won the national championship. They were clearly the best team in the country last year. So they lost to Michigan at home and couldn't move the ball on a team that had 2 NFL running backs, Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, who's going to be like the NFL Rookie of the Year. So weird things happen in college football. Weird things could happen to Notre Dame, which is why I think there's going to be one more close game left. But I think everything is going to play itself out. The only thing, really the only thing that could prevent Notre Dame from getting into the college football playoff, assuming they win out, is if the ACC becomes a 3-bid league. And it'd be a very small possibility. But right now, Miami is not slated to make the ACC championship because Georgia Tech and Virginia are. If Georgia Tech and Virginia both win the rest of their games, they make the ACC championship, the committee is not going to penalize the loser of that game for making the conference championship, because it sets a really bad precedent saying that, I could get punished for making the conference championship. So then Notre Dame would be in a position where they have a head-to-head with Miami. Miami won at the beginning of the season. I don't know what the committee will decide to do. I don't want to have that argument, so let's hope that doesn't happen. But that's really it. That's the main thing that could get tricky, where all of a sudden the ACC accidentally gets 3 teams in, which would be a disgrace because those 3 teams are not nearly as good. But it's a possibility, but I would just encourage the Notre Dame fans, don't stress about it today. A lot more football left to be played. Just enjoy the bye week. I think it's going to be really fun. I think that LSU Texas A&M game, just early prediction, that's going to be the weirdest game of the college football season. LSU in a must-win game at night in Tiger Stadium. If you've ever been to Louisiana, there's some voodoo magic there, and I think it's all going to be working for LSU in that game. Brian Kelly's on the hot seat. So if A&M can pull off that, if they could pull off that one.
No, we can't have that. We can't have
need A&M to win.
A&M got to win that.
That's what I'm saying, though. If A&M wins that game, if they're able to defeat not only the LSU Tigers but the Louisiana Voodoo, they're undefeated. Just put them in the semifinals after that point.
That's what I'm concerned about too. And I think, and we can kind of breeze through that because we've touched on some of these big games to keep an eye on this weekend. That's got to be the tops. Number 3, Texas A&M taking on number 20, LSU in Baton Rouge. Brian Kelly is playing and coaching for his job in that game. They owe him more than $50 million if they fire him. But Texas A&M, they have to play 3 ranked teams in their final 5 games of the season. So this season is far from over for the Aggies just yet. So that is a game to keep an eye on. I think LSU could possibly pull it off. That is a tough place to play. And man, there is a lot riding on the line. We'll see if Kelly chokes or if they can pull it off. That'll be a big one. Other ones just to keep an eye on too. You touched on Missouri and Vanderbilt are playing. Boston College is playing against Louisville. Louisville, of course, coming off of that win. It'll just be interesting to see. Is there any chance BC is going to beat Louisville? Probably not. But it'll be interesting to at least watch and see what BC is capable of. And some other ones, Oregon's playing against Wisconsin. They should win. Miami plays against Stanford. They should win. But, those are all games to keep an eye on. And what an interesting topic to bring up about Miami and the possibility of 3 teams battling it out in the ACC. And who would have thought Virginia would be in that position? I think that's great for college football. It's interesting. We have a local kid from the Niles area who is a walk-on running back on that team, Owen Gardner, and he gets to dress this week. So good luck. I don't know if he's going to get any playing time, but good luck to him. All right, let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll get into the Heisman watch just a little bit before we say goodbye.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same attention to how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail. Because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda. Move and be moved.
All right, Heisman watch. There's been a lot of different guys, a lot of different names that have been on top of that list, and it's just rotated, tumbled down. Of course, we started out with Arch Manning from Texas. That did not last long. Cade Klubnik from Clemson, Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. Those guys are no longer on that list. Do you know who is currently the number one prospect for the Heisman right now? The IU quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. That is incredible to me that he is the front runner right now. Good for him. 1,755 yards, 21 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions on the season. Right now, according to Bet ESPN, their odds right now for Mendoza is plus 300. You know where our Jeremiah Love is coming in at? Plus 2,000. What do you guys think about that? Should Jeremiah Love be up higher in that conversation?
Well, it usually goes to a quarterback. That changed last year with your boy from Colorado getting it. But in most cases, it's the best player on the best team, or should I say the best quarterback, or the quarterback on the best team. And there are a handful of quarterbacks. C.J. Carr got some mentions, but I actually think that the Ty Simpson from Alabama is going to get some more mention, but we'll just see how they play.
Well, again, 4 I have is Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sain of Ohio State. This dude is completing 80% of his passes at 19 touchdowns, three interceptions. Dante Moore, Oregon, so he's at 72%, 19 TDs, 4 interceptions. But Ty Simpson, 70% completion. And he's gotten better every game. That's the thing that, I just in watching him, he's at 18 touchdowns, 1 interception, 70% completion rate. I like where again, Jeremiah should be higher in my opinion, because he is, just a dynamic player. But, and Allen said it, it's gone to the best team with the best quarterback, and he doesn't have those, Ashton Genty type numbers. So it's he's going to have to rush for another, 800-900 yards if he's going to even get a whiff. But I just think, again, how he's played, how he's continued to, with being the focal point of the defense, he's continued to develop into a dynamic runner. And again, to go for 228 against USC, that was very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah, I hope Love does not touch the ball enough that he would even have a chance at actually winning it. I do think that there's a good chance that he gets invited to New York City. I think that he could maybe, if they decide, it's kind of weird how they do it, where some years they'll take 3, some years they'll take 4, some people, 5 people will go to New York. But if Jeremiah Love is able to go to New York, I think that would be really cool. First player to do that at Notre Dame since Manti Te'o. But look at what Genty did last year. He had over 2,400 all-purpose yards, and he still came in second. He didn't even lose to a quarterback. So I love what Notre Dame is doing. They've really pumped up the press campaign on social media this week with Jeremiah Love, and for good reason, man. You need your school's backing and all that. So I hope it's enough to get him an invite to New York. I ultimately think that Ty Simpson is going to win it, because I think he's going to have more signature moments down the stretch. They still have LSU. Auburn is going to be a crazy game, even though Auburn's been terrible this year. But the funniest thing to me about Ty Simpson, in 2023, Alabama played USF. Do you remember who started that football game for Alabama at quarterback? Former Notre Dame player who's now a current Notre Dame player. That'd be-
Buckner.
Oh, yeah.
Tyler
Yeah.
Buckner. Tyler Buckner. Who came in for relief of Tyler Buckner in that game against Alabama? Ty Simpson. So Ty Simpson could go from Tyler Buckner's backup to third string quarterback, actually, because he's really behind Jalen Milroe, to Heisman Trophy winner. Like, that's one of the craziest college football stories ever. So I think it would be like the perfect icing on the cake for his career. And one day, if he does end up winning, he'll look back and say, at one point, he had to come in for Tyler Buckner, and a couple years later, he won the Heisman. That's crazy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That is awesome. And you know, I just to throw it out there, not saying that I think CJ Carr should be winning the Heisman or anything like that, but just numbers wise, when you look at Mendoza, 1,755 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, the 2 interceptions. CJ Carr, he's coming in at 1,758, 1,758 passing yards. He has just 14 passing TDs, but he also has 2 rushing TDs. And you have to imagine, his running backs are combining for nearly 1,300 yards on the season. So he's not having to pass it so much. I think the thing that hurts him is those 4 interceptions.
Yeah, he lost it when he threw that pick.
Yes.
Like, any chance of him winning it went right out the door. The Heisman committee left. They're like, we can't have that.
We caused Iowa to lose his opportunity too
Yeah,
this weekend. So
All right. Well, we will wrap it up on our show today, the Irish Squad Show, our bye-week edition. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please subscribe. Please give us a like. Please give us the highest rating you can give us and keep us going. We will be back. We won't have a post-game show this week because it's a bye, but we'll be back next week to preview Boston College. Go Irish.